Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay Raterman, and in today's video, we have a very special one. I'm going to be sharing with you guys my life operating system that I've designed inside of Notion. So I've been working at this for quite some time now, and if you guys are into productivity, data storage, and management, and basically a way to organize every single different aspect of your life, you guys are in the right spot. So stay tuned. I'm going to share with you guys the exact system that I use and explain the structure to it and the method to the madness. And hopefully you guys can take some things away and add these to your own life operating systems. So stay tuned. Alrighty, folks, let's dive into the system. So before we jump in this thing, I want to preface this with why I think creating one of these life operating systems is so important. I basically wanted to create a second brain or like a digital filing cabinet for anything and everything that was related to my life. But I wanted to infuse it with specific tools, like self-help type resources and things that I thought were like generally helpful, but I never had a process to actually fulfill upon. So I created this mastermind of a system, as you guys will see here in a few minutes, basically to encompass everything that you could possibly need for your life. And hopefully this makes things a lot more clear and enables you guys to basically have the peace of mind that everything you could ever possibly want in terms of productivity and self-development and data structuring is all in one spot. So before I dive in, I do want to preface this with I've done probably 2.5, maybe a little bit more years of research into the different productivity tools, self-help tools, data structuring ideas, the different things that are out there in terms of, the GTD method, getting things done, or the para method for data structuring, and even specific things within Notion, like the bulletproof method and the PPV method, and different ways to systemize and structure your life. So before I show you guys my model, I do want to give a shout out to August Bradley. He's a phenomenal guy. He's go check out his channel. I mean, my shout out is probably not going to help him that much because he has a lot more subscribers than I do. But I do want to give him credit where credit's due. I mean, he is a phenomenal systems thinker, and he's created a life operating system called the PPV method. It's really good. There were some specific things that didn't click with my brain in terms of really the way that he structures like reviews and where that kind of fits into the system. And then a few other parts about how the systems roll up into the life buckets and things like that I just didn't wrap my own brain around. But for a lot of people, it's like a phenomenal system. So if you guys were to check out anybody else regarding life operating systems, definitely watch this guy. You guys will get tons of good ideas. And I've gotten a ton of good ideas from him myself. So wanted to shout out August. I'm in one of his groups too. So he's just an awesome dude. Definitely check out his channel. So guys, now that all the prefacing is out of the way, let's dive into the system. So as you guys can see here, I have a little Batman character up here on the top of basically on my cover here. The reason being is because the system that I created is called the BATS system, and it stands for Buckets, Action, Tracking, and Storage. So the easiest way I'm going to be able to describe the BATS system to you guys is to show you the inner workings of the system, show you guys into each page on the dashboard, and then I'll take you through the actual rules of the system and show you some visualizations that'll help you guys comprehend exactly how everything plays together. So very first, the thing that I care about the most with any system is it actually usable? I didn't want to create a system that was, overly complex to the point where I didn't understand it and couldn't use it. But also it has to be complex enough to where it encompasses and cohesively brings together every different aspect that you could possibly have in your life, which is a ton of different aspects, and there's a ton of different types of information. And so in order to bring all this stuff together, it was difficult because you have to be a systems thinker, and you have to be able to really pull together every different type of information that somebody could possibly want and make different databases related to each other that make sense. So this homepage, this is my main homepage dashboard, and I call it home-create because this is my creative dashboard. This is simply meant for creativity purposes, inspiration purposes, and allows me the room to make whatever I want. So a lot of times people don't know what to use Notion for, and they're like, well, I don't know why I would use it every day. And I use it for so many different things. So I have this make stuff area as my very first section, because this is where I can create anything I want. It gives me space. The open space kind of gives me like the feeling that I can literally create anything I want here. So I like to keep this space open, and really it blocks off anything else that's on this dashboard from view in case I am in a creative mode and I want to type just random stuff out or create a new page or a database or whatever I'm working on at the time. But on this home create page, I also have a couple other things on here. So again, my creative page is not linked to the system at all. So the BATS system is completely separate from this creative dashboard, in the sense that nothing on this dashboard really is going to affect anything on those pages, other than with the exception me linking pages to it. So purely this page is for creative purposes, like I said, inspiration purposes. I have a quick brain dump area. So a lot of times, like, I don't like to add tasks in or certain things. I'll just make a little brain dump. And then these are things that I literally will just write here. And then I'll either decide if I need to make them into a task or store them later. It's kind of like my digital notepad. I'll just jot stuff down and then delete it if I don't need it. And then I have a quick access area, which is any pages that are under construction or that I'm using a lot at the time. So my YouTube project tracker and then the BATS system. These are two things that I was working on recently, so those are listed there. Quick notes, this is for capturing notes. This does link back to one of the databases, but again, it's basically here just in case I need to capture anything really quickly. I like to have that on the home page too. And then I have my life buckets, which I'll jump into here in a second. I just like the way that this looks, really, and I can access any of the main buckets of my life here from the home page. And I break down the buckets into 3 categories, which is experiences, growth, and contribution. So any bucket fits into those 3 groupings, and basically these are all the different buckets that I have outlined for my life. But again, this entire page, the purpose of it is to be unlinked from the rest of the system. So the BATS system is completely separate. It does link in some ways, like physically link by pages, but again, it really doesn't have any effect on the system because it's purely meant for inspiration and creative purposes. So diving into the actual system itself, we'll start with the buckets page. So the buckets page is the first dashboard of the BATS system. And this is where you sculpt, organize, and define the ideal vision of your life. And it consists of identity sculpting exercises, your personal life buckets, and then detailed goal outcomes. So again, before anything gets too confusing, every single dashboard, every one of these main dashboards, buckets, action, tracking, and storage, they each have one main database. And then any other databases that are on that page are related or secondary databases that are linked back to the main database of that page. So on the buckets page, the only main database that we really care about is the life buckets database. So this is the database where you actually list your life buckets. This is where you go through and you actually can list out all the different buckets of your life. And again, like I said, I like to group them between experiences, growth, and contribution. So really everybody across the board is probably going to have the same life buckets, or they're going to be very close, if not the same. So you guys could always just copy mine. I think this encompasses pretty much every different bucket of your life that you could want to encompass without getting too granular and having a bunch of subtopics, which we'll get into later. So this is the life buckets database. A lot of the other systems that are out there, they forget about like what goes inside the actual page itself. Like I've seen a lot of these systems where the life buckets, the pages themselves are empty and they're just used for database purposes. So for mine, the way I defined it is each one of these buckets, instead of being blank, each one of them is filled with value goals, which are basically, I take you guys through an exercise, or not you guys, but I took myself through an exercise up here in this little thing. It's called value goal setting exercise, where basically it fills in the vision for each different bucket of your life and the way that you want that bucket to play out over the course of your life. So if I click on environment, for example, value goals are things that don't have a defined endpoint or a defined outcome in mind. They're kind of like fluffy goals, if you will. So I want to feel warm and welcomed when I'm home, like different things like that that kind of describe the bucket and describe the vision that you have for that bucket over your life. So again, there's a specific exercise to take you through to actually go and define each bucket. But that is essentially what the Life Buckets database is. And then as you guys will see, the rest of the system links up to these different life buckets so you can access things quickly from this area. So that is the main database of this page, but I do want to point out that the purpose of the buckets page is to really sculpt, organize, and define the ideal vision of your life. So there's a bunch of activities that I personally went through to do that, to define my life, to do the identity sculpting, because that's the most important thing when you're first starting out is, you know, defining your mission statement, defining your life, your current life purpose, your life values and principles. So these are all like the self-help type things that I find to be valuable exercises that I can store in a place that makes sense for me. So these all kind of lead me to my life buckets. So I fill out all these different exercises pretty much once a year moving forward from now. So I did all these this year, and yeah, these will be something that I review every year, every so often, and change. So this kind of gives me the structure and the idea and the direction my life's going. And then my life buckets actually define it in a very systematic way. So all my life buckets are filled out here. The next and last piece to the puzzle on the buckets page is the goal outcomes database. So the goal outcomes, like I said, the buckets have your value goals in them, which don't actually have defined endpoints. The goal outcomes database is actually a database that gives you defined outcomes. So these are things that you actually want to accomplish over the next 30 days, 90 days, or over a year period. And these link back directly to your life buckets. So like compete in my first fight for martial arts. That's health and fitness bucket. You know, go hiking with friends or solo. That's my travel and adventures bucket. So I have specific goals that are set that link back to this database up here, which is my life buckets. So hopefully this is making sense. This is the main database of this page. And then this is a database that is connected and related to this database. So we don't basically, anytime I'm creating anything within this system, I try to limit the amount of databases that there are. So again, every single dashboard only has one main database, and then any other database that's on there is going to be linked to that main one. The reason I do that is because you really want to centralize your information and then create contextual views of that information. So certain things like my mission statement and life's purpose, like those don't need their own databases. And these are things that I'm going to change and I don't feel the need to ever track. So these are just things that will change over time and then I can just fill out and keep here as a good visual for myself. So hopefully you guys understand the buckets database. I know I'm moving fast, but I want to get through how the whole system works overall. And then in future videos, I'll go over like each different dashboard more in depth. So moving along to the action database, this is probably the thing that most of you guys are familiar with what people use Notion for. And this is where you make progress in life. So these are the actions that you take. And this specific page consists of tasks and project databases, and then little to-do and not to-do lists. As you guys can see here, again, I'm fulfilling the Batman theme throughout the entire thing, just as a nod to the Bat system. So shout out to all the Batman fans out there. So yeah, moving along, the main database of this page is going to actually be the projects database. So the projects database, the reason it's the main database of the page is because the project database is actually linked back to the goal outcomes. So once you define that vision of your life here in the buckets database, and you define all your value goals, you define all your life buckets, and then you go and you actually create specific goal outcomes. Well, these goal outcomes will then link and be, you know, probably specific projects that you guys want to work on. So these specific projects in this projects database will then allow you to decide, okay, I have all these projects that are linked to my goal outcomes. Well, now that I have these projects, you have your master task database, which is, again, linked to your projects database. So the master task database is actually going to be what creates your daily to-do list. These are the things that you actually have to get done. And the reason I structured the system this way is because a lot of your tasks, they'll probably link up to projects. Your projects will link up to your goal outcomes, and your goal outcomes will link up to your different life buckets. So it's just a way of keeping everything cohesive. But again, I don't want you guys to be anyone to feel overwhelmed, because I don't always create a goal outcome and then a project and then tasks for that project. Like I said, sometimes I just write little stuff down on the homepage, quick brain dump stuff, and then those are sometimes tasks. So you don't have to use every single step in the system. Like, for example, if I needed to create tasks that aren't attached to a project, no problem at all. Any part of the system you can jump into and use without linking it up to any of the other parts. But if you did want to link it up into a full system, you have the ability to do so. So again, the master task database is the secondary database that's on this page. There's only two databases that are on this page, and it's the projects database and the master task database. And I just have a bunch of different views for these task lists, simply because I like the way they look. So basically I have a due date calendar. All the items that are on my to-do list are based on a DO date instead of a DUE date, which means these are the days that I'm actually going to do the activity, not the days that they are due on. So hopefully that makes sense. There's just a lot of discrepancy sometimes in the productivity world about that. So I choose the DO dates here. And then I also can rank them by energy level if I want. If I want to get down a bunch of low energy tasks at one specific time, or a bunch of some high energy tasks, I can look at the different priorities there. But basically, the master task database, there's two views. There's just the master view, and then there's the calendar view. I like to look at my stuff on a daily basis and then see it monthly like this. I can't wait till there's actually a Google Calendar connection and the API for Notion is released. But until then, it's simply just the tasks that I input into here. But yeah, as you guys can see, you can literally just click new tasks if you have tasks to do today. You just put the due date. The state is actually showing whether it's overdue or not, essentially. And then I always have the type, so whether it's a recurring task or one time. Probably going to change this type of stuff in the future. I might even add a theme day, a theme section, what day the tasks fit into or something like that in the future. But again, this is basically meant to be your action zones. These are the things you actually have to take action on and get done on a daily basis. And then lastly, at the top, this little piece right here, I have ongoing current routine reminders and then a not to-do list. So these are not things that are placed in any database because simply they change a lot, and I don't want to put them in a database and have to worry about tracking and changing and all that. If I want to change something on this list, I just edit it. So there are certain things, guys, within these systems that they don't need to be added to databases because, I don't find value in tracking them. So just keep that in mind, and also keep in mind that you can jump into any point of the system and use the different databases. Like if I wanted to just do tasks, again, without linking to projects, I could do that. So it is a full cohesive system, but you can use what you want. And the idea is meant to be that it has a really easy refresh rate, meaning if you, for example, get out of touch, or maybe you stop using Notion completely for a month, you can jump back in and start at any point in time and be able to, start fresh. And then the last little piece of this page, I just have the Eisenhower decision matrix for no reason at all. I just thought it looked cool and thought it was helpful occasionally. So just have that down there. But yeah, this is the action database, and we will move on to the tracking dashboard now. Or excuse me, that was the action dashboard. So now is the tracking dashboard. This is where you track and document your journey. Again, got the Batmobile up here. It's just a nod to the BAT system. We have this tracking dashboard consists of habits and routines, daily and weekly reflections, which are journal entries, monthly and quarterly reviews, and then yearly reviews. So current habits and routines, a lot of people like to build habit trackers and actually track every single thing. Until the API is available, I don't think it's necessary for me personally. I don't like to track everything that granular. But what I do is I have my morning routines, my evening routines, and my Sunday routines listed out here. And then I just change them as necessary or as needed. And I actually do have a place within one of my reviews where I say if I'm completing at least 75% or more of my routines. So I can at least see if I'm on track, but I don't want to have to go in and, click a checkbox for every specific routine that I have. A lot of people think that's super valuable. And if that is for you, you guys can easily add it into the system. But for me at this point, it's not until the API is released. So this page, guys, the main database of this page is the life tracking scoreboard. So the life tracking scoreboard links back to the goal outcomes, which then links back to the life buckets. But basically, it's a tracking scoreboard that gives you an idea of how well you're performing in life. It gives you an overall view and insight into life. So like we can look at my November 2020 review. The time frame was monthly, so I always do monthly, quarterly, or yearly for these type of reviews. And I give the date range, the goal outcomes that I completed, and then I have these roll-ups here that say goal outcomes completed 100%, life performance score 66.7%, and then daily habit tracker. The habit tracker thing is, again, it's checkbox. Basically, it's like, hey, did you complete 75% or more of your routines? So this is like the type of review. And then I have these different templates for like monthly reviews, quarterly reviews, and yearly reviews. But each of these basically related databases are the different parts of the system. So before I hop into these, my daily and weekly review process are just journal entries. So I can either add a daily or a weekly journal entry. And then my monthly and quarterly review process is actually a separate database that grades me on different stuff. So if we look at my monthly life review for November, you'll see this database, which looks a little bit complex, but basically it's a system where you go through and you grade yourself on these 6 high-performing habits on how well you did, and then you grade yourself on all the different life buckets. You give yourself a score of 1 to 5 on each of them, and this entire activity explains it. But again, I only do this once a month or once a quarter or once a year, and you just go through and you grade yourself, and then it will give you a calculated score. So for me, my life bucket score was 60% that month, and my 6 habits score was 73%. So it averaged at 66.7%. So again, these were things that I took from like productivity people. These are things that I stole from like Brendan Burchard and Tim Ferriss and all these people that have all these like kind of life systems. So I just implemented them into Notion and took the things that I found were most valuable for reviewing my life, and then put them into the system. So essentially, that's how I grade myself monthly and quarterly. And then I have a yearly process that I do the review on. And yeah, that's what rolls up into the life tracking scoreboard and gives me these type of roll-ups right here. So, and also, like, if I want to, I can go back and look at the weekly reflections that I had for that specific month and see like what was my journal entries, like what was I going through. So again, like guys, this stuff, like it seems like a lot, and it is, because it encompasses every different thing you could possibly imagine having or tracking in your life. But the cool part is, like, if I skip a month, like it's not a big deal. I can just hop back in at any point I want and keep using the system as is. Or if I'm like, hey, I don't want to use the whole system, maybe I just want to use the daily journal entries, then I can just use the daily journal entries. And I try to make everything in the system made for a lazy version of myself and for like it's like a game version of myself. So like even if I show you guys like my daily journal entries, like I'll show you an example of one. So my daily journal entry, if I'm feeling, this is for me, if I'm feeling lazy or don't want to follow the prompts, I literally will just write a couple sentences about my day or whatever the heck I'm thinking about. I'll just put that in this section right here. And then I'll check off, did I complete 75% of my habits? Yes or no? And then, yeah, like I literally keep it that simple, and I'll just write a couple things right here. And then if I'm on my A game and I'm like, I'm feeling great, I'll fill out the entire prompted journal entry with like, my 3 wins for the day and things I learned, and, all these different questions that I want to have. So I do have prompts if I want them, but again, sometimes I'm not feeling it, then I'll just write random stuff. So that's just another example of like my systems are built in such a way that like I can use however much or however little that I want, but I have the peace of mind to know that I have this beautiful system there for me. So hopefully that makes sense. Basically, this dashboard, like I said, is meant for tracking every different type of thing you could want to track about your life, and giving you a structure to do so. And again, this dashboard, or this database, excuse me, links back to the goal outcomes database, which then links back to your buckets. So one of the rules I have is every main dashboard in some capacity has to link its way back to the life buckets, just because if I want to go to my life buckets, I want to be able to see every different thing I could possibly want from that bucket. So hopefully that makes sense. Moving along to the final piece of the puzzle. So I know this has been a long video, but hopefully it's making sense to some of you crazy people out there that also do this type of stuff. Yeah, we have the storage section. So the storage section is where you capture and store information, knowledge, tools, and resources. So this consists of information capture, information storage, and archives. So this is like one of the most important dashboards on the entire system. Finding a way to do this storage management well it gives you a ton of peace of mind, and it's just like extremely important for a good system. So let me show you guys how I break it down. First of all, this is going to probably expand both of these little things right here. The external knowledge sources and the thought inbox are both probably going to expand at some point. But for right now, thought inbox, basically what I mean is anything that was produced by me and by my own thoughts goes here into notes and ideas. Anything that I'm taking from other stuff, whether it's like I'm taking notes on a book or like media or courses or training, like any external knowledge goes into these areas. And all of these little like views and dashboards that I have right here are all linked up to the two main databases of this dashboard. And yeah, basically these are just little quick contextual views of these dashboards down below, or of these databases down below. Sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up here. I've gone through this so many times. This is a dashboard, and these are the two main databases. But what I'm trying to say is these are contextual views of these exact databases down here. So these are built in such a way that if I wanted to capture a quick note or idea, I could just literally type something in here, and it will auto log it as a note and idea and fill out several fields for me based on my filters. So it just eliminates a few steps of work for me and allows me to like quickly organize, like, oh, if I have a quick new note, I can type it here. Or if I have a new personal item I want to log, I can put it here. Same with books and so on and so forth. So that's what those are there for. They're just views of these databases down below. But the two main important databases of this page are called the information storage database. So these are the bucket subtopics of your life. And then we have the master information capture database. So this is for information capture. So one is for storage and one's for capturing information. All these things above, these notes and ideas, personal items, books, media, courses, is all just different ways. They all go into the information capture. They're just ways to quickly capture stuff. So my information capture, this is how I capture any new information. So whether it's a book, whether it's a personal item, a note or an idea, a course, a video, a podcast, an article, any type of new information that I want to write about or like put notes in about will be captured here. And then it will be given a status. It will be given a topic. It will be given a creator. Sometimes there's files and media and links. But basically any type of new information I will capture here, and then it will get stored in this database right here, which is the information storage database. So this is the main one of the page. The information storage one is the main database of the page. But the master information capture database, this information capture section links up into this. So any new note that I had on, this was trying to find copywriting, for example, Craig Clement's copywriting, it links up into a subcategory on entrepreneurship and on copywriting. So basically this entire section right here, anytime you have a new piece of information that doesn't have a subtopic, you just create a new subtopic and then you put that new piece of information into that that category or that new subtopic. And then each of these subtopics, this database is very simple. It just links back up to your life buckets, and it links up to your projects if need be. So, or you can archive them and make them go away for, if you don't want to see them anymore. So to give you guys an example of how this would work, like let's say I have my entrepreneurship one here. I created the entrepreneurship subcategory, and that links up to my business and career life bucket. But then the cool thing is all these different information pieces, like why I love entrepreneurship, notes on successful startups, business idea, and then like copywriting, all link up to this entrepreneurship subtopic. So I know anytime I need to find information on entrepreneurship, I click here and then I can go and boom, now I can go find this information on copywriting. So all of this information essentially runs itself back up to your life buckets, which is really cool. And it gives itself a way to store itself. So this is like a big storage unit. It's like think about it like a filing cabinet for your brain, and it all links up to different life buckets. So you have different pieces of information that are captured in different areas that have different names that are based on different stuff. Those link up to these different subtopics. And then all these subtopics link back up, again, like I said, to your life buckets. So everything will link back to these life buckets. But this gives you a way to like create anything you want. So for me, in other people's systems that I've seen, I like never understood. I'm like, okay, so like, where does like their YouTube content database fit into everything? Like, how does that even fit into their life? Like that's related to business, all this stuff. And so for me, I'm like, well, I'll just create a YouTube subtopic, and then my YouTube project tracker, which is a database. It's a tool that I use, just goes right inside of my YouTube category, and my YouTube category links up to my creative life bucket. So the cool thing is I can see all of these different, I can see all of these different subtopics, and I can create different subtopics anytime I need to. And I know where all the information is and everything's being stored. So again, the two main databases are the information capture and then the information storage. So those are really the only two things you need to know, is a way to capture information and a way to store information. These different contextual views up here above are simply there for the fact that, if I go and I want to capture a new note or idea, I can type it in here and go through all these different, fill out all these different properties. But if I actually do it right here in the notes and ideas, I only have to fill out like one or two properties. Like if I create a new note here, it'll auto tag it as a note and idea, and it'll say source was from self instead of someone else. And like, it'll just auto tag certain things for me so that I don't have to fill it out. And it gives me a way to view, oh, here's all my notes and ideas. Here's all my books that I'm looking at. So instead of having it in this like cluttered looking database, which is the master information capture, I can look at them in their contextual views and see exactly, specific notes and ideas and things like that. So that's just a quick little easy way for me to organize it and view it. But again, there's only two databases that are on this page, and there's only two ways that I store everything. So it all runs back through this, and these all link up to the life buckets. So before I repeat myself 10,000 more times, I'm going to move on and show you guys the last couple things. To make sure you guys understand this fully. So I'm going to move on. I'll start with this. I think this will be the easiest. So this is something I created to give you guys like an overall view. I maybe should have started with this, but I mean, I guess whatever at this point. This is it. So BATS, buckets, action, tracking, and storage. So again, the top of the pillar, it's identity sculpting first. So you create all those different things you want to, create your mission, all the, self-help stuff. If you want to use it, you can use it. If you don't want to use it, whatever, you don't have to use it. But you can do the identity sculpting, and then you fill out your life buckets, which have your value goals in them. And then you fill out your goal outcomes database, which is like actual tangible goals that you want to have, hit in the next 30 days, 90 days, or 1 year. So that allows you to very clearly define your goals. And then you move down, and your goals can then help you define your projects, which is in the action dashboard. So you fill out different projects you're working on, and then your projects will inevitably have tasks to accomplish. And then some tasks, maybe you fill in tasks and they don't have a project. I have a ton of tasks that aren't related to a project that you just got to get done anyway. But yeah, again, everything kind of links back up to the top. And then you have ongoing behaviors and not to-dos. These are things that I don't really track other than in toggle views. But nonetheless, they're important and they help me if they're there, if I can visualize them. So I like to have those there. And then tracking, we have habits and routines, daily and weekly reviews, which are your journal entries. Then you have your monthly and quarterly reviews, which are your performance assessments. Then you have your yearly reviews. So once you identify all your buckets, you have a way to take action. Then you have a way to review your action, which means like, am I actually performing? And then lastly, you have storage, which is just the bedrock of your entire system. And it gives you a way to, basically capture and store information so that you know where it's at, that you can access it at any point in time that you need. So hopefully this gives you a good overview of the system and the way that it's structured the way that it is. And hopefully I'm not missing anything, because at this point it's pretty much set in its ways, if you will. I'm sure there will be things I add and change millions of times over the future. So make sure you guys subscribe and stay tuned and hit the like button for all this freaking systemization that I got going on here. And then here's this. I really don't want to show you guys too much of this to confuse a lot of you. But if you guys do, you can pause this and look at this, or I'll include probably a link down below. But basically, this is just a way for you guys to visualize the system and how the databases actually relate and link back to each other. So again, the homepage and the creative dashboard is completely unconnected from the system. Unconnected as in like, it's not necessary. It's not like linking a database or anything like that. So it's just a disconnected piece. Then you have all the main dashboards right here listed out, bats. And then you have your main database of each different page. And then you have your related databases that link up to those databases. So see, for me, as you guys can see, there's really only a handful of additional databases. So really only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 extra databases beyond the main 4. So one of the principles I like to employ is centralizing the information and then creating contextual views of it. So hopefully this visualization helps you guys out. And then the last piece here before, if I still have some of you guys here watching this video, I'm going to run you guys through, I'm going to actually include this in the link of the video so you guys can look at it. Hopefully it helps you and gives you an idea on how to create this. But this is the BATS system. It's going to help you get clarity on your life, and it is a mixture of consistency and creativity. So I'm trying to take the best of both worlds and smash them together. So how the system works, again, we kind of already went over all this. Probably should have started here, but you go through the identity sculpting, you create the buckets, you generate the outcomes, you use the outcomes to create the projects and create the tasks. Then after you assign your goals and tasks, you use the tracking to make sure you're on progress with all this stuff. And then the assessments roll up over time, giving you a picture of your life and how you're performing. So once a year, again, on my yearly reviews, I'll just kind of reset the whole system and, start over from the identity sculpting and change a lot of that stuff. It's just good to get a fresh start every year and change different directions maybe of your life. And then lastly, storage. Anytime you ever need to capture any new information, you either use the information capture or you create something new and you put it in the information storage area. So super simple, super easy. That's how you use the system. And the system rules are as follows. I'm just going to read these for you guys as the end of the video. But again, centralize information. So create contextual viewpoints of that information. The best example of that is in the storage unit where I had the notes and ideas that were contextual views of that master capture, information capture database. So that's a good example of that. Number 2 is one home dashboard that is unlinked from the system purely for creativity and inspiration. 4 master dashboards, which are bucket, action, tracking, storage. 4 main databases, 1 database per dashboard. All databases will in some way link back to the main life buckets database. Any additional database added onto a main dashboard should link back in a relation to the main database of that dashboard. So again, just centralizing information. Try to avoid creating new databases if you can. Add properties and create contextual views. If a database can't link up to the main database of that dashboard, it should just become its own page, like I showed you with the YouTube tracker. Just make it its own page and make a new subtopic for it. You don't have to like recreate the whole system or do anything crazy. And then number 9, you don't always have to use the system or follow the hierarchy. It should have an easy refresh rate, meaning if you ever stop using it for a month, you can pick back up. What I mean is, like, if there's a task, again, that doesn't have a project, who cares? You just fill out the task, you use the system. It doesn't always have to flow up and follow everything to a T. It's meant to be easy to use. And then pretend like the system is a large filing cabinet. So create what you need to create and then place the information where it belongs later on. So a lot of people have like a weird, they don't want to use Notion, or like this system's like too complex. They're like, oh, I don't want to use it because, there's too much friction in like actually following the process of using it. So they don't ever use it. But for me, just use Notion the way you use it and then store the files where you need to store them. So not every task needs a project. Not every project needs a goal. Not every life tracking update needs a journal entry, etc. It's built to be linked together in a cohesive manner, but again, you can jump in at any point. Items that may change often in your life, like current habits and routines, ongoing behaviors, don't always need databases. So I mentioned that before, but you can always just like create little toggle views of things that you want to change often. Not everything needs tracked, believe it or not. Find what's useful for you to track and then track those things. Every new piece of information can and should find a home in a subtopic of the information storage database that will eventually roll up into a life bucket. If you don't know what to do with some new information or tool, simply create a new section for it in the information storage database and link it to a life bucket. So basically just said the same thing. And then any massive storage or files that need stored that might bog down Notion. So massive video files or things like that, you can store them in Google Drive and make them viewable in Notion. Lastly, if you just need to use this for quick stuff, like if you just need to use Notion for quick stuff, like I showed you on that homepage, and you don't find it worth storing anywhere, you're like, I don't need to store this, just delete it. It's as simple as that. Lastly, make using the system a habit. Try as hard as you can to use the system. Obviously, that's the point of having it there. It will give you a ton of peace of mind and productivity boosts, or just go have fun and create shit. So hopefully the system makes sense to you guys. Hopefully this has been helpful. It has been a whirlwind for me to create this. Excited that it's finally, fully done and has come to life. And hopefully it's helped some of you guys out there. So again, go create stuff. Hopefully the BAT system will help you guys do so. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Drop a like for me for the amount of effort that I put into this one. I would really appreciate it. It would support the channel as well. And yeah, guys, that is pretty much it with the BATS system. All right, guys, that is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you. I appreciate you sticking it out and trying to understand the madness which is inside of my head. But hopefully it helps you guys. So I would appreciate any and all feedback. I want to hear what you guys think below. And I'm really just looking forward to helping you guys out, helping you guys with Notion. If you guys have any questions, obviously shoot me a message. You can follow me on Instagram at ClayRat, ask me questions. And then, yeah, I'm looking forward to making more Notion videos for you guys in the future. I'm gonna obviously dive more into this system and show you guys the intricacies of each different dashboard and really try to help you guys with Notion use in your personal life and in your business life. So I'll probably do videos in a series on this, but I want to again say thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything.